Let me tell you something real in this world. Pain is invisible. Nobody sees your tears when you're alone. Nobody applauds your breakdowns. They only show up when you're winning. So stop expecting sympathy. Hide your pain, wear your scars like armor, because the truth is, nobody cares until you rise above it all. This is not about being heartless. It's about being unstoppable. You own yourself, your own strength. Pain is one of the most intimate experiences a person can go through, yet the world often expects you to keep it hidden. There's a certain harshness in society that doesn't offer space for vulnerability unless it comes with a victory at the end. When you're hurting, most people won't pause their lives to understand your silence or sit with you in your discomfort. They'll scroll past it. They'll ignore it. They'll label it as weakness. But here's the truth. Pain doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need validation or sympathy. What it needs, what you need, is purpose. When you go through something painful, there's a natural instinct to want to share it, to be seen and heard. That desire is human, but in a world that's busy, competitive, and often indifferent, waiting for someone to care will only deepen the wound. People respond to results. They rally behind the comeback, not the struggle. So the question becomes, how do you convert that pain into something powerful? How do you channel it into action, into focus, into something that fuels you instead of draining you? You start by understanding that pain can either define you or develop you. It can be a distraction or a direction. The way forward is not through seeking comfort from others, but by confronting the pain internally and assigning it a reason. When you assign your pain a purpose, you stop asking why me, and you start asking what now. That shift is everything. Purpose doesn't erase pain, it transforms it. The more quietly you carry your burdens and use them to sharpen your drive, the more resilience you build. The most successful people often have the deepest pain hidden behind their strongest smiles. They know that healing doesn't always happen in public. Growth rarely announces itself, and strength isn't loud. It's steady. That's why those who rise don't wait for permission or pity. They rise because they've turned their pain into fuel. They don't display their wounds. They build with them. They don't perform their suffering, they learn from it. There comes a point when explaining yourself becomes exhausting. You try to justify your decisions, your boundaries, your emotions to people who either don't understand or simply don't want to. Every time you explain, you chip away at your energy, trying to earn acceptance or validation. But the truth is, not everyone is meant to get you. Not everyone will see your vision, feel your pain, or agree with your path, and that's okay, because your evolution isn't up for debate. We live in a world where people demand reasons for your growth. They question your silence, your distance, your standards. They expect access to your process as if they're entitled to it. But you don't owe anyone a breakdown of your healing. You don't need to defend why you cut certain people off, why you changed directions, or why you finally chose yourself. The moment you stop explaining is the moment you begin reclaiming your power. Explaining keeps you stuck in the past. It pulls you back into situations that no longer deserve your energy. It forces you to relive pain just to make others comfortable. But your evolution requires forward motion. It demands that you protect your peace, even if it makes others uncomfortable. When you choose to evolve, not everyone will applaud you. Some will criticize, some will distance themselves. But none of that should stop you from moving forward. There is power in stillness. There is growth in silence. Every time you choose not to explain yourself, you're choosing clarity over chaos. You're choosing peace over performance. Growth is not something you broadcast, it's something you live. the more you evolve, the less you feel the need to be understood. You stop chasing approval and start walking in alignment with who you truly are. You make decisions that support your well-being, not your image. The people who are meant to walk with you won't need an explanation. They'll respect your journey even when they don't fully understand it. And those who don't, let them go. You weren't put on this earth to make others comfortable with your choices. You were put here to grow, to evolve, to rise, not to explain. Silence is often mistaken for weakness. People assume that if you're not speaking up, you must be suffering in silence, unsure or lost. But there is a silence that comes from strength, a kind that speaks louder than words ever could. In a world addicted to noise, to reactions, to instant responses, choosing silence is a form of self-mastery. It means you're no longer triggered by every comment, every insult, or every false narrative. You've learned to hold your energy, not waste it proving who you are. Your silence can protect you. It gives you room to think, to breathe, to process before reacting. When emotions run high, silence becomes a shield, a moment where clarity is born. Not everything requires a reply. Not every disrespect deserves a defense. The more you grow, the more you understand that some things are better left unanswered. Not because you're afraid, but because your peace matters more than your pride. People often try to provoke you, get a reaction, pull you into their chaos. That's how they regain control, by making you dance to their emotional tune. But when you remain silent, calm, and composed, you deny them that power. You keep control, you decide when to speak, and when your silence will say enough. And in those moments, silence becomes a message. I see everything. I understand more than you think. But I refuse to lower my energy for anything that doesn't serve me. There's a difference between being silent and being silenced. The former is a choice, a strength. The latter is oppression. When you choose to stay silent, it's not because you lack a voice. It's because you're learning to speak only when necessary, when impactful, when aligned with your higher self. You're no longer reacting to every situation. You're responding only to what deserves your presence. Growth teaches you that not everything needs to be shared. Some things are sacred. Your dreams, your pain, your healing, your progress. Let people assume. Let them create their own stories. You don't need to correct them. You're not here to explain your silence. You're here to rise through it. The real power lies in being so deeply rooted in who you are that you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. Rejection can feel brutal. It cuts deep, especially when you've poured your time, your heart, your energy into something or someone, only to be turned away. It's easy to let rejection convince you that you're not enough, that you're unworthy, unlovable, or incapable. But the truth is, rejection is rarely about your worth. It's a redirection. It's life telling you, in the most painful but honest way, that this path, this person, this plan wasn't meant for you. And sometimes that's the very breakthrough you didn't know you needed. When you learn to see rejection not as a personal failure, but as divine guidance, everything begins to shift. You stop taking it as a statement about your value and start viewing it as information. You realize that every closed door is protecting you from something smaller than what you're destined for. You may not understand it in the moment. It may hurt, leave you feeling lost, questioning everything. But on the other side of that pain is clarity. On the other side of that no is a better yes. Rejection builds resilience. It teaches you how to stand back up when everything tells you to stay down. It forces you to look inward, to ask the hard questions, to grow beyond comfort. And that growth, that's where your power lives. Every rejection carves out space for redirection, for something more aligned with who you're becoming. The world may say no, but that doesn't mean you stop. It means you pivot, evolve, find a new way, or build your own table instead of waiting to be invited to someone else's. Most of the strongest, most successful people have faced rejection more times than they can count. They weren't chosen, they weren't applauded, they were overlooked. And yet, they kept going. Not because they were immune to the pain, but because they turned that pain into purpose. They realized that rejection isn't the end of the story. It's the plot twist that leads to something greater. Something earned, something real. Rejection reveals. It shows you who's for you and who isn't. It shows you what's real and what was never meant to last. And it pushes you hard toward the person you're meant to be. The fire of rejection either burns you down or fuels your rise. The choice is always yours. We live in a world obsessed with outcomes. People don't usually stop to ask what it took to get where you are. They just see the result. The success, the glow up, the confidence. But behind every win is a story no one bothered to read. People celebrate you when you've made it, not when you're crawling through self-doubt, heartbreak, sleepless nights, and silent battles. That's the reality. Struggle is invisible. Only results are respected. When you're at your lowest, you'll notice how quiet the world becomes. Friends disappear, support vanishes, the texts slow down, and suddenly you're left facing your demons alone. That loneliness is painful, but also powerful, because it teaches you the truth about people and the deeper truth about yourself. No one claps for the work done in silence. No one cheers for emotional discipline. No one rewards your ability to keep going when everything inside you says stop. People don't see your sacrifices. They don't know how many times you wanted to give up but didn't. They don't see the therapy sessions, the journaling, the days you held yourself together by a thread. They see the glow but not the grind. The healed version of you becomes their favorite, but the broken version, that one was left unread, unliked, and unnoticed. That's why you must keep going, not for applause, not for validation, but for yourself. You can't live your life waiting for someone to notice your pain or understand your path. You can't hold yourself back hoping that one day someone will give you credit for how strong you had to be. You have to decide that your progress is enough, that your growth matters even if no one claps, that your healing is valid even if no one says, "I'm proud of you." You are your own witness, your own validation. And once you start showing results, real, undeniable growth, watch how people begin to resurface. Watch how they suddenly care, suddenly want to be part of your journey. Not because they care about your pain, but because now you're proof that it's possible. You've become the outcome they respect. But by then, you'll have learned the lesson. You'll know who was real and who only showed up for the spotlight. Results reveal what struggle always hides, and in this world, that's what people respond to. Scars have a way of reminding us where we've been, what we've survived, and how deep we've felt. Most people are taught to hide their scars, to cover them with smiles, filters, distractions, and silence. But scars are not weaknesses, they are evidence. They show that the wound didn't win. They represent the battles that could have broken you, but didn't. You don't need to turn your scars into stories people pity. You need to turn them into power that commands respect. When you stop treating your pain like a secret and start owning it like a strength, everything changes. The world might not have seen you cry, but they'll see you rise. And when they do, your scars will speak louder than any explanation ever could. Not in a loud way, but in a grounded way, in how you walk, how you carry yourself, how you stop chasing what used to break you. That's real strength, that's transformation. Scars are proof of healing, but they are also roadmaps. They show you the exact places where you were tested, the exact moments where life demanded more from you than you thought you had. And yet here you are, not because it was easy, but because you refused to stay down. The pain didn't go away overnight, but you moved through it. You didn't let it freeze you, you let it forge you. There's a choice you make every day, to let your past control you or to let it empower you. When you stop hiding your scars and start standing in them, you take back control. You stop needing to be seen as perfect. You stop chasing acceptance. You realize you are not broken. You are rebuilt. Every scar becomes a layer of armor. Every hurt you've endured becomes another reason you're unshakable. You don't need to explain what you've been through. You don't need to convince anyone that you're strong. The way you carry your scars, with grace, with resilience, with power, says everything. People may never know the full story behind what shaped you, but they'll feel it in your presence. That quiet strength, that unshakable calm, that refusal to settle for less, that's what scars create when you use them right. Not as a narrative of pain, but as a blueprint of power.